why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
Really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and D-gentlemen of all ages. Welcome back to another Friday Book Club. Tonight, we're talking about Pirate Money by Kevin Freeman. A little bit on the shorter side, but kind of a continuation of a lot of the money currency series that we've been up to lately. I think it's an excellent one, and my favorite part about this book is it actually has a potential policy proposal that should be a good point of conversation, and we can talk about American history, so what's not to love? I am Zenith, your host for this evening. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at ZenithDI. Outside of that, I'm joined by the usual cast of folks as soon as they are able to join and their cameras stop hating on them. But other than that, I'm joined by my excellent co-host for the evening, Will Stevenson. How we doing, buddy?
Aloha, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ducks and squirrels. Life is good. I just got done hanging out with my wonderful brother, Sam, and my excellent grandparents, as well as my father today. It's just been a good all-around family-style day. Sam took off a little bit earlier than anticipated, so I'm happy to be able to join you guys on Book Club tonight. I was not anticipating this, so it's a nice little surprise. But things are going great up here in the Pacific Northwest. Life is good. Weather is good. The rest of the world and country seems to be experiencing like just barely two-digit degree weather. And over here in Washington, it's like 40s, 50s. Things are good. Things are nice. I like it. I got myself some Ranye classical Pacific Northwest beers.
Good Rainier.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Rainier, but yeah, just chilling out, having fun, having a good time. So I'm stoked to get into this book. The homeboy had some interesting ideas, but I'll save it for you to introduce in the synopsis. It looks like, I don't know if we have Mr. or Mrs. Producer with us now. They are dealing with some technical difficulties. We've been having some camera drop-offs for like the last 10 minutes, so I'm hoping their internet's available. Mr. or Mrs. McGettit, are either of you able to say hello and say what's new and exciting with you?
Will is the producer in the room with us right now?
I'll go ahead and try myself. Can you guys hear me?
You're on. Yeah.
You, yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to turn on my camera just in case the internet decides to take a crapper again.
Sometimes
I mean, it's
do
still
that.
kind of lagging as of right now.
Yeah.
It's
Do it live, folks.
Yeah.
We do it live.
yeah, heck of a night. I don't know if something's happening, but yeah, for real. But yeah, Nate McGettit, right? Extension over here. I don't even know why I named myself that. I was just being fun for over here. But yeah, no, interesting book. It kind of felt a little bit like a commercial to me. I mean, he had a lot of good data points and a lot of good things to say in it, but when he started getting to the end of it, I was like, oh, you gave us all this data for basically just, hey, I'm trying to sell you an idea. Let's go do it.
It did kind of seem a lot like a sales pitch. I remember you and I had spoken about it in one of our phone calls. And then when I listened to it, I was like, oh my God, this dude is basically pitching like for the entire United States to do this money system. So I mean, he did a good job of explaining it. It sounds pretty cool. Should we continue teasing the audience, or should we tell them what this book's about? Nate is Mrs. Producer able to say hello and
Let me
chit
see.
chat?
Can you hear me?
Aloha. Yes, we can hear you.
It looks like, according to my little circle of sound thing, that I might be faint. Or do I sound good?
Here's
A
good
little on
enough.
the quiet side, but you're coming through.
All right, cool. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's our internet or if it's just Nate's computer, because he was just cutting out for me. Was he cutting out for you guys during that?
A little bit, same.
Okay. Am I cutting out at all?
No, you're clean.
Yeah, you're good.
Huh. I wonder if maybe you need to restart your computer, hon. Okay.
It could be the
All right.
Lazarus Group. They knocked Bybit off the map a little bit ago, so maybe they're also hacking Minnesotan personal computers or something like that.
Uh-oh, that would suck. I really don't want to deal with that crap.
I mean, that might be a little bit of a spoiler for the Sunday show. I have a feeling we'll probably be talking that one, considering it's one of the largest crypto hacks that has ever happened.
Yeah.
So,
Oh gosh. Okay, that sounds like fun. Definitely tune in on Sundays, guys. Or
Yeah.
Sunday. Well,
I mean,
every
if
Sunday preferably, but this next one for sure. If you're gonna pick one, make it the next one.
if the folks don't already know, it happened this morning. There was a huge, it was the biggest centralized exchange hack in history. $1.5 billion of Ethereum was stolen off of a cold wallet by some hackers. So we'll cover it more in the days to come. But I just thought it'd be fun to make a cool little hacker joke for our Degen Roundtable book club. I know that right after, in the order of like important things, it's like Bybit Ethereum exchanges up here, and like Degen Roundtable book club is like next under the list in terms of like things that keep the world going around. So I wouldn't be
There you
surprised
go.
if the Lazarus group came after us next. So
Perfect. I like it. I love it. I do. I don't want it to happen, but I still love that. Apparently, we're that important. That would be awesome.
look, if the Lazarus group tries to come and hack the DRT token, the joke is going to be on them, because it is not a real token of value. Do not buy the thing.
You're like
It's a joke.
You're like the
People,
hypnotized
please.
guy, but like the opposite. Like instead of do the thing, you're like, don't do the thing.
Like, no, I'm not even trying to reverse psychology people. Like, straight up, like, it is a joke. It is a toy. It is a teaching tool. Zero monetary value.
Hashtag not financial advice in the chat.
Correct. Correct.
100%.
Definitely don't buy it, folks.
All right, then to wrap it up for me, new and exciting stuff, right? And is that what we're looking for at this moment?
Yeah.
Okay, well, nothing too much new and exciting for me. I went out today to get some Pokemon stuff that was releasing, and I waited in line at GameStop for a little bit over an hour. And they, for whatever reason, decided to be a bunch of jerks and give everybody 2 of the thing instead of 1 of the things. So by the time it got to my turn, it was gone. So that sucked. But I went to my local card store, like just on the way home, just because, why not, and see what they had. And they actually had the thing. So I got the thing still. And I'm very happy about that. And that's what's
Suck
new
at
and exciting
GameStop.
with me. What'd you say?
Suck at GameStop.
Yeah, GameStop, bite me. Oh, God, that made me so mad. I wish they could have told us they were doing that, because a lot of the GameStops will put a sign on their door, like 1 per person or 2 per person, and then they say how much they have. But this one just is like, nah, good luck. It's Mall of America, so they feel like they're entitled to do whatever they want, I guess.
I believe that was renamed to Mall of Mexico, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
good Lord, no, it wasn't.
Since we took their Gulf, they took our mall, or something like that. I saw that somebody had edited the one on Google to make it Mall of Mexico for a short
Well,
period
that's
of time. I believe it
hilarious.
was changed back. But well, dang, sorry to hear about that with the Pokemon. But other than that,
Well,
things
no,
are
I got
going
it in
good.
the end, so it was a good thing.
Oh, you
actually.
did?
It ended up being a really good day. The local store lady.
Oh.
I usually don't see her. It's usually the guys, but she's actually one of the owners. But she was like so excited to be able to help me out because I'm one of their regulars. So it
Yeah.
was just a nice, happy thing all around. Oh,
Nice.
okay. I think
Oh, we
Nate
lost
is
Nate again.
restarting.
Damn
All right,
Lazarus group.
Other than that, this book was interesting. I didn't expect it to be like basically a crypto book,
Yeah.
but it is basically a crypto book. So I listened to it. I went through it all, but for the most part, I'm expecting these gentlemen to carry the conversation tonight because I'm not as well versed in crypto, so I'm assuming they're going to have a lot more to say than I do. And with that said, I think that's about all I've got. And go ahead and take it away, whoever wants to.
Will do. Mr. Will Stevenson, do you have the sign?
I do have the sign. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for motherfucking chat shoutouts, baby.
That's right. It's the point of the evening where we say hello to all of our excellent friends out there in the chat. We are very thankful you guys are showing up on a lovely Friday night to hang out with us. Unless you're in the part of the country that Will alluded to earlier, which is in like the barely double digits temperature, in which case, stay warm. Crack open a nice cold silver bullet and enjoy the show with us. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please throw them in the chat, or any just good jokes as well. Love reading those too. Alrighty, first up, who we got? Number 1 Degen of the evening, Fast Abdul, Pulse Jitsu with Fast Abdul. He says, why is there a book about RG3's money? That's right, this is the pirate money. So we found RG3's doubloons. We have, I have one of them here, actually. I have one of the doubloons. The rest are in some vault or tucked away in a mattress somewhere. Or maybe 2 mattresses. He might have a lot, you never know.
Homie's ready.
True. Alrighty, up next, another good friend of the channel, Moonpill, The Rational Optics. A book that fully describes the world banking system. Yeah, it's a continuation. So thankfully, this one did not make me just like as black-pilled as trying to like triple speed the creature from Jekyll Island. But overall, though, is a good synopsis. If you want the full detail of like terrible fractional reserve banking and the history of money, yeah, Creatures from Jekyll Island. If you want something a little on the shorter side that dovetails very nicely with it, I would say that's this book. That's my personal opinion, though. And then we have one wild Will Stevenson, possibly an impersonator. We never know. Could be Lazarus Group already. He says, oh, goody.
That is my father. Hello, father.
Oh, it's Will Stevenson Sr.
Yep.
There
he
it
has
is.
he has the purple icon.
Got it. Good to see you, sir. Welcome as always. Hopefully to give you some good conversation tonight. And sneaking in at the last minute, we got Kay Hudson. He says, what's up, dudes? Good to see you, my man. Alrighty, with that being said, let's get into it. So, Pirate Money, as opposed to the Creature from Jekyll Island, which was 24 hours, this one was only a handful over 4 hours, which is nice. Really easy. But at the same time, though, this one, like I said previously, dovetails very nicely with talking about all the other stuff we talked about at this point, which is that we've talked about how there's different forms of currency, whether it's fiat, gold back, commodities, or debt creation. There's lots of different ways to do it. This one actually tries to utilize gold and silver in a new way to leverage it as an actual payment method. And it actually brings some receipts for how the United States is actually positioned very nicely to possibly use this new idea and get it going. That is the sales pitch that the boys have, or I think that was the green room we talked about the sales pitch. But yeah, at the end of the book is the proposal for legislators and people trying to write to your congressman, do a nice American activity of write a strongly worded letter to your local congressman. But the point is that fiat currency sucks. We all know this, but there's a proposal in which you can actually use stores of gold and silver in combination with like a debit card effectively to transact in gold and silver or denominations of gold and silver, and it will help alleviate some of the issues that we will talk about later on. But other than that, I do have a quick synopsis for you. So, Pirate Money by Kevin Freeman proposes a legislative initiative to reintroduce gold and silver as legal tender at the state level. He argues that the U.S. Constitution permits states to use gold and silver coins for payments, a practice rooted in the nation's founding era when such pirate money was the standard. By leveraging modern technology, Freeman suggests that states can establish systems where citizens deposit gold and silver in a state bullion depository and utilize debit cards linked to these assets for everyday transactions. This approach aims to combat inflation, reduce federal overreach, and preserve personal liberty and privacy. Several states, including Texas, have explored or implemented measures aligning with the concept, though not all legislative efforts have been successful. Alrighty, let's talk about one of the concepts that's more in the book but doesn't get explained too much later, because I think the author actually has an interesting take on the CBDCs. He again talks about how Bitcoin is an interesting asset, but his main issue with Bitcoin is the volatility. And I think that the volatility is the thing that scares him away. But he does mention how CBDCs are possibly the more stable version of a Bitcoin, but are easily corruptible by the government. So I guess the question to the panel here is, do you think the author is correct on the CBDCs? Like, this seems like a more traditional person when it comes to the finance sector, someone who's very new on Bitcoin, but also understands CBDCs at a base level. Did he cover all of the bases for you to talk about how that's a very poisonous pill for a money system?
I don't remember him talking about CBDCs like very well, other than saying that like they're generally not something that anyone wants. I listened to the book twice, and I know that he did mention it, but I don't really remember his entire take on it. If I'm being honest, what about you, Z? Or Mr. and Mrs. McGettit?
I guess as a quick point of order, CBDCs stand for central bank digital currencies. Effectively, it is a cryptocurrency that is issued by the federal government that would also be under control of the federal government. So pretty much the idea with Bitcoin is that it's decentralized. A lot of the admin controls are locked and unable to be changed. Therefore, it's going to stay the same. CBDCs is slightly the opposite, which is that the government has full control over those admin privileges and can adjust the code in real time. So there you go. That's the precursor. I believe we are having some technical difficulties again. All right, fair enough.
No.
Yeah, Nate is officially restarting the computer now. He was trying like everything he could to not have to fully restart it, because we have like, when we're working on projects, we'll like keep the windows open and stuff and just kind of minimize them. And I have one open right now doing my Pulse 369 stuff, so that I'm going to have to completely restart because we got to restart the computer. So.
Very well. All right, I'll try to pass the ball to myself, so to speak.
Yes.
So there's a few things that I really like the author talking about the central bank digital currencies on this one. Is he does talk about the objection that a CBDC is effectively just the digital dollar as it stands, even though that's not technically true. But in effect, the way that the average person would interpret what it looks like and what it looks like in utility and their everyday life, it would operate very similarly to modern banking systems, honestly. And this is a very recent book, and one of the things he actually highlights is the events in Canada during the trucker protest in 2021, I believe, where if not just you participated in the protest, but you sent money to the people participating in the process to support them, guess what? Your bank account got frozen. So you effectively got locked out of the money system, even though it didn't have to be a cryptocurrency. It allegedly was just the normal money of your state. It just was that your bank decided to freeze it and not allow you to touch any of it. I think that remembering the trucker protest and the effects that actually happened afterwards, or rather the actions that the government took, is very important. There's a few things that I'm worried are going to get memory hold pretty quickly when it comes to the last like 5, 6, probably 8 years, to be honest. But I think the trucker protest in Canada is one that we need to make sure does not get memory hold, because that was a very important, very public event, which is that, yes, the political dissenters freeze their money, rid them of their finances. It's like, yeah, that's some pretty scary stuff. That's a good case for Bitcoin. It's also a good case for potentially having an alternative route to use the financial transactions, in my opinion. But outside of that one example, the author does talk about how the idea of a negative interest rate is something that could possibly be implemented, which is that if, I don't know, the government says, oh, wow, we're looking at a recession. How do we incentivize people to spend more money? Well, tell them that if they don't spend the money, it will start, like literally the number will start to go down. The absolute number, you'll be getting charged negative interest rate, aka your money will cost money to hold on to in the day to day.
They'll start. I think I remember that part of the book where he's talking about like they would literally start pulling it out of your customer. That's the problem with like the centralized stuff. You know, it's like imagine something goes wrong with your Amazon account, right? And Amazon locks you out of being able to purchase. Imagine something happens with your Netflix, you know, something totally out of your control. Imagine that something like I don't know if any of you guys here have ever been locked out of your bank account before because of some like fraudulent, you know, someone else somewhere is trying to use a credit card or something, and now you can't make purchases until you like call your bank, you do the process, you do this, that, the other thing. These are all examples of centralized entities taking your sovereignty of your ability to transact away from you because you're using their system. This is the thing that like cryptocurrency solves. And so if we were to introduce a CBDC, then like you would be in the same situation that you're at with like, you know, with going and banking with Wells Fargo or with Chase Bank or Bank of America or like your insert hometown credit union or whatever. It's like it's a problem all around.
Very true.
Sorry, go ahead.
All good. No, good stuff. Outside of that, the other thing he talks about for CBDCs is just increased surveillance and control over financial activities, which is like, oh, we also checked in with your doctor records. It says you're overweight, therefore no more buying ice cream.
Yeah.
Or that would also be bad. Like, yeah. I'm not too old to remember back in the days of the virus when people made the argument where if you don't go along with our political policies, you do not deserve health care. That was an argument that people made, saying that we wish to reserve the right to deny you hospital care because we don't like the things you have to say. It's like, that's some scary shit.
Yeah. And all of this stems from people not being in charge of the things that they're participating in. You know, if you want to be in charge of your health care, then be in charge of your healthcare. You can outsource your healthcare to someone else and you can pay for a subscription to their like monetary service, but the real the real like end all be all sovereignty thing is just being in charge of everything that you subscribe to, you know? Like be in charge of your own finances, be in charge of your own healthcare, be in charge of your own like where you decide to live or something like that. Once you start allowing the government to make decisions for you, then the government starts making decisions for you that you don't necessarily want. So I just that part of the book I agreed with that a whole lot.
For sure. Alrighty, so we've outlined the problem, which is that fiat money sucks, CBDCs also suck. In the author's opinion, he says Bitcoin sucks because it's too volatile. principles work very well, but just too volatile to be used as actual money for transactions in day-to-day life. Could potentially be a good store of value in his opinion, but not too volatile, because someday, on like any given day, it could be up or down, maybe even 20-25%. And that is a significant change in effectively what's inside your wallet with no input from you or the outside world effectively. Well, it is the outside world, no X, but we're not going to talk about that. So fiat money bad, CBDC's bad, Bitcoin bad for the purposes of transactions. So the author turns to gold and silver. So let's talk about, when you think about trying to transact in gold and silver, does that seem very efficient to you? Like, what are some problems you imagine people might run into if we try to physically carry gold and silver coins?
Well, you got robbed first and foremost, and
That's one of
also
them,
like
the old
it's
hammer attack.
incredibly heavy. It's not fungible, right? So like, if I want to buy, here we go. I've got a bag of almonds right here. If I want to buy a single almond, right, and all I've got is like gold and silver in my wallet, I have to spend such a small amount of gold that it would be like totally inconvenient to like take out my gold bar and like shave off a flake and like keep shaving that flake until I get a small enough nugget to be able to purchase this, this almond that I'm consuming. It's not fungible. And then people have to have scales, and people have to have measuring equipment, and they have to test for the purity and blah 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 blah. Right? It's not useful in itself, but you can have like a digital ledger system that keeps track of all this gold and stuff. So that's like probably the biggest problem with gold. The only place that I know of that transacts in gold is up in Nome, Alaska, where they fucking pan the stuff out of the dirt. Like, I don't know if any of you ever watched the Gold Rush TV show, but I know that they pay for stuff in ounces up in Alaska, but it's like it's totally that's part of their like mining economy up there. So
For sure.
Is that
What
what
you're talking about when you're shaving, the gold off, is you're literally making it rain.
That's a new way to use that phrase.
Fired, get out.
like a cheese grater on your gold bar, just like yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, the divisibility is a huge problem with it, though. And this is something we've talked about in the past with a lot of the other books we've discussed, which is that if you're dealing with commodities trading or you're just doing straight barter, effectively, you have to have the denominations work out perfectly, or you're going to end up with someone getting the short end of the stick, or you have to operate on a credit system, and then at that point use trust between parties as the ledger and the record, which human memory, not great. Written records can also be destroyed. Digital records, yeah, they're better, but at the same time, it's possible to have hacks, as we discussed at the top of the hour. But the point is that the divisibility is bad. One of the ways that you can solve this is, exactly what you mentioned. If you use an actual electronic ledger, you can start using enough decimal places to represent the amount for enough gold for one almond. But at the same time, though, it's also, if you have to constantly transact and put the gold in and out of the system, trying to measure out exactly 0.0700213 ounces of gold sounds like an impossible task, especially for human error. And the material itself, it might just not be capable of doing that at that scale. So, to get further into it, the author actually proposes something that is viable. I think it's actually in Switzerland he talks about, which is that there is a company that issues debit cards. The debit card linked to your account does not operate in whatever the unit of denominations. I'm pretty sure it's euro for Switzerland still. But the point is that instead of operating in the euro, which is not a great currency because, again, it's kind of just a fiat currency, they operate in terms of gold and silver. So they automatically do those conversions for you, and then allow you just to use the debit card in your daily life, and then you pay maybe a small fee, and that's how you actually transact with it. There's actually a similar thing in effect right now with Bitcoin, I believe. There's a Timcast IRL, I think it was a Culture War episode, where they had people come on, talk about Bitcoin and whatnot, and one of the guys on the show was actually talking about it, how he actually uses that debit card, and he says, I have all my holdings in Bitcoin. The system actually just automatically does the transaction and pays it out in US dollars and does a conversion for him, pay a small fee, but at the end of the day, it all gets reconverted back into Bitcoin for him. Oh gosh. Yes, I remember this one because it was so weird because on that episode, there's actually an ex-UFC fighter, and I was like, what is this guy doing on a show talking about Bitcoin? I can't remember his I'm gonna feel
Bro,
stupid.
there's a high correlation between UFC dudes and cryptocurrency. Father, Dad, I'm going to ask you this question specifically. I want to say that it's Swan Bitcoin that does this stuff. Can you either confirm or deny in the comments, Dad, if it's Swan Bitcoin? Because I know that there's a whole bunch of places that they will allow you to transact, and they'll do all the Ben Askren. Okay,
That's who it
okay,
was. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that dude sounds so familiar. Oh man, I don't know a whole lot about UFC, but good for fucking him. But I want to say that it's Swan Bitcoin that will allow you to do like regular everyday transactions. Oh, excuse me. I'm pretty sure that they'll allow you to do like direct deposit. So essentially banking, right? You can have your workplace check sent to your Swan Bitcoin account, and then they turned it into sats, and then as you spend and go through your daily motions or whatever, then they transact everything. And there's like fees associated and whatnot. But I think that Swan Bitcoin does that. I could be wrong about that, but Dad, that'd be a question for you if you're listening right now. I know that my father's big into the Bitcoin products and things of that
There you
nature.
go. Yeah, that these
Oh,
hybrid
Strike.
products.
Excuse me, Strike.
Strike is good for day to day. Swan is good for DC. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Excellent.
point
Thanks,
is that
Dad.
these hybrid systems actually already are in place in limited degree, but they do exist and they are operational as it stands right now. It's important to keep in mind though that these things are not true crypto and DeFi, because you're giving possession to other people or just operating on behalf of it, so it's really goes against some decentralized finance principles there. But also at the same time, if you're operating with a company that uses the debit card system, you are not operating with a blockchain, meaning that everything is not permanent and is not immutable and is not publicly available, which from the privacy standpoint sounds good, because privacy I think is important, especially to actually have a good capitalistic system, because having privacy and some secrecy about your personal financial transactions and your dealings with other people, exposing that to the public exposes everyone to risk, and then also kind of ruins a lot of competition stuff that goes on and negotiation power. So do you guys think that sounds about right, or am I missing something here? Like, is this close, like on the scale of like crypto to non-crypto, where do you think this one falls?
It's definitely in the middle. Like if you look at other crypto cards that go through, like say a MasterCard or Visa, like the Gemini or the Crypto.com card, ultimately it's just simply using their system, and then you pay off the debt, with crypto. It's the same type of hybrid system. Quite frankly, with the way that the world is at currently, I don't think you can just be like purely Bitcoin unless it's like literally peer-to-peer, aka person to person, right? I don't think you can go through an actual, man, it's a big system to have to change, but
No, it is. It's massive.
Yeah. And I do agree with him that I think it's a good idea to try and get away from the system as much as possible, right? But you can't ultimately, if you're going to exist within the world that has that system in place, you're going to have to go through the system some way or another. I think the best possible way is probably this, because not only is there multiple avenues that you can go, right? What do you call that? Diversifying, right? But then you can also, you can use what is yours privately and able to go through that system via a gateway, which would be one of these hybrids, right? So ultimately, I think it's the best, like, I'm in my own dimension over here. I'm in my own world. Okay, let me go back into society here for a little bit, right?
True. This is something that we keep running into when we're trying to talk about the difference between effectively like precious metals, like gold and silver and that kind of coin and bullion or bar or whatever you want to use, actual fiat currency, and then like crypto, which is that the bridges between them are where that's where the rubber really meets the road. If you are able to operate in a community that does actually use some sort of cryptocurrency for a lot of your settlements, that's fantastic, because you don't have to hit those bridges as often. You don't have to transfer one to the other as often. But then at the same time, though, there will come a point where you do have to transfer it into US dollars, because taxes are a real thing and everyone has to pay taxes. So I think that's one of the shortfalls of the system where we're at. And I think that's one of the things that the author tries to fix in this one. But outside of that,
I can kick back a little bit on that.
Yeah, go for it.
So instead, like it's always like US dollars, right? But let's go ahead and imagine the US dollar loses its place as the world reserve currency and it becomes like the yuan or whatever, right? Well, technically speaking, with the way that we can use like the Crypto.com card or the Gemini card or Swan and Strike, right? The way that we can use these cards is we can now convert them into wands instead by using our Bitcoin. So there is a bit of a safety net there where as long as the system payment itself of like say a MasterCard or a Visa or something else akin to it is there and they're able to transact being a third party, you're still within the system. It doesn't matter who is actually, commanding the system itself. So there is that safety aspect.
That's true. Some of the other safety aspects that we kind of gotten accustomed to in daily life are pretty much just protections of the government and then the regulations of the banking systems at large, because it's the difference between a credit card and a debit card, which is that if you're using credit cards, it's credit, it's not actual transfers of money. So theoretically, if things go bad, there's a hack, something gets stolen, you can try to argue with it, and they do protect you up to a certain amount for that kind of stuff. But then once you start going that debit card route, once that dollar is transferred out of your account, it's gone. It's closer to crypto in that regards. So when it comes to using systems like these, I think the question is, how much protection are people willing to give up in order to get the benefit of the new system that they're using, whether it's something that's gold and silver backed to prevent inflation or crypto backed to promote self-sovereignty. I think that's the real trade-off that people are going to have to answer when it comes to this stuff.
I'm a big fan of the sovereignty option. That's just me personally, though.
That's true. I think this might be a little more in the personal philosophy category, but I think I'm right there with you as well. Self-sovereignty, in my opinion, is very good.
It is very good. The way that, I think it was actually Andrew Tate who talked about this. The way that, or the best way to be self-sovereign in the current digital world that we're in is to be everywhere all at once and to be like basically as visible everywhere as once. The way it used to be is get off the grid, grow everything yourself, farm everything yourself, be away from, anything that had to do with a centralized entity giving you a product of some kind or a service of some kind. But nowadays we are so connected that your safest place is to be as diversified as possible and to have as much visuals on you as possible.
I think diversification is the real key word there, because I'm pretty sure Sovereign Individual talked about this, and then a lot of the digital nomad folks also talk about this, which is it's the idea that you care less about the nationality that you belong to or are under the jurisdiction of, but you care more about which jurisdiction is treating you best, and you're just going to constantly move there. Again, the diversification thing, which is you want to be everywhere, as many places as possible, it's the diversification. So theoretically, if one of your avenues gets taken down, it doesn't really matter because you got like 7 other ones.
Absolutely.
Fair enough. All right.
I was just going to say, I agree with that. That aligns a little bit with, for those of you familiar with Nomad Capitalist, Andrew Henderson, he writes a lot about all of this stuff. He podcasts about it. Big fan of all his work, but it's all in a similar vein. So that's all that I had. Nothing crazy.
Definitely. Alrighty. So the book itself does not actually go the crypto route as much as we would like it to, because I think that all of us here, we're on the crypto channel. Crypto is usually at the front of our mind. But this guy, I think he actually his goal is to keep it inside the United States. I think the guy is an American through and through and wants to see the nation succeed. And part of that includes trying to fix the money system. So his proposal is very much a self-contained proposal, especially considering it directly involves the United States governments, or rather the smaller governments that are the states themselves. So we're going to go through a small history lesson here and work our way through the proposal. So as it stood at the founding of the country back in 1776, we didn't have the Constitution. We had the Articles of Confederation. Under the Articles of Confederation, each of the states actually had their own currency. And there was also the Constitutional Congress money called, what was the Continentals. The Continental Congress issued paper money known as Continentals. Gentlemen, can you guess what happened when states just started issuing their own paper money?
They printed the fuck out of it.
Ah, there it is. There it is.
Bro, like, when he went through the chapter about how does the founding fathers think about paper money? They fucking hated it.
Oh, they hated it.
And I don't blame them, because it is true. It's like, I don't know. There's something about the founding fathers who just understood human, oh my God, just understood humanity, right?
Human
And they used all of that and was like, okay, how can we put safeguards in place when a human is going to do what a human always does? And paper money was one of those, like, nope, that's just gonna go straight to greed and corruption.
It's not just that, but it's also there's just so many ways that it can go wrong. Especially one of the ways that it did go wrong is that all the exchange rates were just fluctuating wildly. And this is also 1776. So there's no internet, there's no electricity, there's no way to know instantaneously what the exchange rates are. So you kind of just got to guess and go what the local standard is. And if the locals don't want to give you the rate that they believe it is, but you know it's something else somewhere else, then you're kind of just out of luck on that one, or you're just going to have to bite the bullet. So yeah, I agree with you that the founding fathers were very well read. And the crazy thing is they're also in like their 20s and 30s when they were pretty much establishing the country, which is wild. But at the same time, though, they're also very well read in a lot of different areas. And they understood, I think they understood human nature very well, Nate, to your point, which is one of the ways that allowed them to try to figure this stuff out. So under the Articles of Confederation, we had paper money. We had lots of different paper monies. We had issues with the federal government trying to, A, get the states to do anything altogether, and also trying to act as a single nation as opposed to independent nations that could just decide to kind of just fuck off on certain issues, then try to be included in others. So eventually we end up getting to the Constitution itself. And inside of the Constitution, we have two very important tenets when it comes to this proposal. So we first have the coinage clause, and then we have the contracts and tender clause. So under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5 of the U.S. Constitution, this grants Congress the power to, quote, coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, end quote, which this establishes federal authority over money. It does not prohibit states from using gold and silver, though. This one specifically talks about the ability and the right to coin and regulate money. So it's reestablishing central currency under the federal government. This is the one that we're saying, hey, we're all getting together. We're all going to use this one thing that the Fed decides on. The next one is Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. This is the Contract and Tenders Clause. It states, quote, no state shall make anything but gold and silver no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. This clause means that the states cannot declare fiat currency, such as the US dollar, as their exclusive legal tender, but they can, it's a can, not a shall, can recognize gold and silver as valid means of payment. So this is what I was alluding to previously when I talked about how if you're trying to go between gold, crypto, and dollars, you're going to hit those bridges. And then one of the ultimate bridges you have to get in is at the end of the year, the tax man comes to you and says, hey, you owe me money. And you say, cool, can I pay you in crypto? And he goes, absolutely not. You have to pay in dollars. So this is one of those weird things that people have really forgotten about, but the author keys in on and kind of is the cornerstone for his whole proposal, which is the idea that the states still have the ability to use gold and silver coins as payments of debt. So specifically, when it comes to gold and silver coins, it's not that the coin itself is worth a different amount. It's that the coin is worth what the coin is, which is that it is a specific set amount of gold or silver in a specific purity and specific weight. Therefore, it's not, you can't really fake it. It is what it is, or it is not something that you're claiming it to be. So that's where we get to the actual proposal here, which is that we go to the crypto.com card or the Gemini card idea, but instead of having crypto.com and Gemini do it, we actually put a little more faith in the state governments to hold this gold and silver for you and allow you to use it as an individual to transfer between other people, businesses, states, whatever it is. The idea behind this that the author points out is that if you do this, it takes pressure off the US dollar, which could have some issues when it comes to demand, which we can talk about later. But the idea is that you're getting away from the inflation of the dollar and you're still sticking with the precious metals. It's taking all the good things about digital currencies and combining with the stability of gold and silver, which is why the author explicitly doesn't say he wants to use Bitcoin for it, but he wants to use gold and silver because it's more stable. Am I missing anything here?
No, that sounds about right.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Can you imagine the arbitraging between the dollar and whatever these notes would be?
That would be something, all right. I mean, it would really change the supply and demand curves when it comes to the gold and silver, especially the ones that are, oh gosh, I mean, the proposal is a lot. I will say that much. I'm not saying that I don't think the author actually proposes that the state governments actually start to like create and mint their own silver and gold coins, but to actually try to account for existing gold and silver that people put in their storehouses and then use their cards to transact with. So I guess we can start getting into the meat and potatoes of it here, which is that, do you guys have any, what are your favorite things about this idea, and what are some major issues that you see with this idea?
About the gold and silver cards.
Yes. Issued by the states. That's the key here. Because we talked about how there's the crypto and the Gemini and the gold back cards that exist. But this proposal is explicitly using the existing structure of the United States and the states specifically.
So I want to push back a little bit. They don't have to be issued by the state. They just have to be accepted by the state. And I think that that's an important distinction to make, is that like
Agreed.
the state would not be the one giving people the cards. The state would just say, hey, you guys are allowed to do this. And like I think that it would be great. I don't think that a whole lot of people would buy into it. I don't know how well. It doesn't seem like it's very well marketed as an idea. So it would need a lot more enthusiastic adoption and stuff. The truth of the matter is that I think that in order for people to want to adopt to something, to switch from one thing to another thing, it has to be about 3 to 10 times better than the thing that exists. And I don't see this this gold-backed debit card system. I don't see it being perceived as being 3 to 10 times better. Like, I understand how it is, and I'm on the same like sheet of paper as these guys, but I'm just not feeling the like, is it 3 times better than what I'm using? No, not really. What I'm using works, right? And what I'm using is functional, and it's good enough for the time being. So like it reminds me a lot of when I would hear about rumor that the United States is going to switch its service weapon from the M16 into something different. It's like
the classic, we're totally going to phase out the A10, I swear.
Yeah, it's like we've got this thing that works, and we're going to continue using it until we get something that's just like super duper better, because we have this logistical system that's set up already. Like, do I think it's a cool idea? Absolutely. Would I go through the 3 or 4 steps necessary to get one myself? Probably not. Like, it doesn't I don't have the wow wee wow, it's not like fancy schmancy super cool awesome thing. It's like, oh, this would be like 20 to 30% better. It may be even 50%, like in my own interpretation, right? So I don't see it being fancy enough to really like catch on and change, and like there's a lot cooler things that have got stonewalled for much like less legitimate reasons. And so like, while I think it's a great idea, I just don't see I don't see the fiery spark lit up under the people to switch to this thing. I think what would probably happen is most people, they would just speculate and buy Bitcoin, and they would use their dirty ass like stinky fiat dollars to transact in regular everyday stuff. So like, I see this as like a moderately decent halfway solution between the two that would require a whole new system of logistics and administrative whatever the heck to start implementing. So that's my own 2 cents. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I think it would be excellent, and it would be awesome. I just don't see it. I don't see it being like crazy cool and awesome. So
I
that's
hear
my
you.
2 cents.
We can actually draw in another idea from a different book that we like, which is that if we go back to Alex Hormozy's value offer, let's do a breakdown real quick. So the value offer is what you get multiplied by the speed that you get it, divided by the cost and the sacrifice required. That is the amount of value. So this proposal, I think, it doesn't seem like a huge value add, because the value add is just trying to fight inflation in your own daily bank account, which I think the book came out at a very, very opportune time, because it came out during an era of hyperinflation and prices just going absolutely crazy. Therefore, the pain that people feel when it comes to that stuff is a little bit higher. But at the same time, though, it does, as you say, require a lot of people to change a lot of what they have going already, which is that I'm already using dollars. I already got a bank account. I already got a credit card. Like, what? I want to go through the whole thing just over again, just for fighting what 3% year-over-year inflation.
3%, 5%, you know, like it's all pretty damn close. And I don't think that the juice is worth the squeeze. It's cool. It's a neat idea, but it's like, hey, are you gonna buy like a snap-on screwdriver when you've already got a perfectly good Harbor Freight one that works, like, for now? You know, until the one that you're working breaks and you can't get the job done because you don't have a screwdriver anymore, then like you're just gonna continue using the thing that works, you know? So like it's just not flashy enough. It's not zazzy enough. That'd be my analysis. Nate or Miss Magetta, do you guys have any thoughts? We got some comments as well we can cover.
Yeah. So the original question of the gold and silver backed legal tender and being run by the state, and then like issues and potential like good things. So my concern, I believe he mentions in this book that if we were to go to our banks right now, like everybody in America went to their bank and they tried to withdraw like all of the money that they had sitting in there, there's absolutely no way the bank would be able to provide it.
Yeah.
My main concern with this is it would put us in that same potential scenario. Like, unless we have a visible way to like see that these people have this gold and silver that they claim we have the value of, there's no way for us to know that. So I think it would end up being the same problem. You go to the bank, you're like, hey, I want to pull out all my gold. And like, yeah, we don't have it. Sorry. And it's like, okay, well then where is it? Well,
Audit
you got
Fort
this
Knox.
virtual thing. So how could we keep that like honest? How could we keep that like as a guarantee? I don't know how that would work out. I feel like it would be the same thing that we're kind of dealing with right now.
It's a very valid criticism. I think
Yeah.
your criticism comes in two different parts. Number one is just the pure trust aspect, which is like, how do we know? Like, how do I know that you have a gold bar in a vault for me somewhere, according to what you're telling me on the screen versus what I can actually go witness with my eyeballs in person? And then the second part, I think when it comes to the bank runs, like you mentioned, is to go back to the creature from Jekyll Island. Fractional reserve banking appears to be a bit of a Pandora's box that humans have really never been able to shut and just not touch or stay away from. So what is going to not incentivize the states to do the exact same thing? I think these are very valid points.
Yeah, and that would be like kind of my main criticism / concern. Other than that, I mean, I love the idea. I love the because it's going back to like our currency or our form of exchanges with one another being actually worth something. Like, kind of, to me, it's similar to like in the very old days where you traded wheat for apples. They each had value instead of just being something that's like completely made up and just printed. Like, the only real value of a dollar bill is whatever the heck the materials are to make it, and then whatever value we assign to it. Like it's definitely different now dealing with this kind of currency versus dealing with actual gold and silver, which are materials that can be used in some way that can be beneficial to whatever you use them for. So I really love that idea. It's just I think it would just end up turning into the same issue that we have right now. So
Yeah, that's fair enough. I could see that coming. Personally, I really like the idea. I think that it could work out very well. However, I also believe that if something like this had taken root and we actually is like a daily use type of deal in the United States of America, it's like, well, what happens to the dollar at that point? And I can tell you right now, it would hurt the dollar. It would weaken the dollar. That being said, it almost turns this state's note, I'll call it, into our main economic use within the United States. That alone would technically reset the previous value of the dollar, where we can get a cheeseburger, chocolate shake, and fries for $1, right? Just one of these notes.
Oh, if only.
Yeah, if only, man. Whereas the United States dollar, the federal dollar, then becomes international trade, and it's no longer that this is the United States dollar. This is now, this is the worldwide trading currency at that point. And I think overall that would probably work out best, because there would in the short term, there'd be a long period of time where the Fed technically would not really need to print more, aka devaluing, right? Unless they start going ridiculous with other countries. But other countries, they're gonna start wanting that dollar, or maybe they wouldn't, because if it would weaken the dollar technically too, right? Because that would be a short-term thing. So then maybe BRICS just takes over. See, that's kind of talk about Pandora's box. That'd be a difficult one to try and figure out there. But it's food for thought, though. It's food for thought. I can guarantee you that if this type of thing did happen and we all the states, kind of agreed, hey, let's actually do this, people would learn very quickly that it would take a lot less of these paper receipts to buy things than it does dollars. And because of that, people would start, at least in the United States, right, would start moving away from the dollar and towards the state notes. But then for a fact that the dollar would still continue to be used outside of the United States. And so therefore, all these other countries are going to want more dollars and able to gain, especially if we're, a whole Trumpism, creating more things within the United States to export, right? And if that's the case, I could see the dollar actually becoming like exponentially stronger, and BRICS would basically just die at that point. But that's only if, of course, we go back to producing and stop buying other people's shit, So yeah, I see. I'll kind of sum it up here. I think that the state dollars, I'll call them, the state dollars would be a reset on the value of what the U.S. dollar used to be. It would just be a full reset, and then the U.S. dollar would become international trade, and then all we would have to do is just start producing our own shit, and we can export and import.
Imagine everyone except for the United States is using the United States dollar. It's just like, yeah, we don't like this crap.
Irony to that.
We're trading with gold and silver tokens in our own country, and so we're just shipping you guys all this crap that you send back to us.
Bro, oh my God. Okay, so the US dollar would become those notes, and then it'd be like the Fed dollar as like the international trading one. It's like,
basically, it is a federal. Hang on, I'm pretty sure it says fucking Fed on it.
Yeah, it does. It's the Federal Reserve note.
This note is, oh shit, yeah, right up there on the top. Fucking A. Yeah. Look at that. Federal Reserve note, United States of America. Holy shit. Yep. It does it on the 10 and on the fucking 20. Yep. Federal Reserve note. Yeah, it's already Feds. God damn.
Yeah. Oh, well. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private.
Doesn't mean that people have to accept it, right? So like if you guys go to those places that only accept debit cards or whatever the hell, and it's like that's the business owner's prerogative. It's not like a law that they have to accept these greenbacks. They can take other things.
It's true. I think so at its face, all of us, we understand the proposal from the author very easily. It's simple. It makes sense. He cites his sources in the Constitution for here's the authority to do it. Here's some similar real world analogies of other people doing this successfully. Why not do it here? I think the issue that we're all trying to identify here is second and third order effects, which is that this could work, but it's the butterfly effect in motion, which is that the monetary system is such a complex and layered, intricate system, which is not itself on its face, because I just take one of these, I give it to Will, there you go, we paid a debt. But it's more of, now we're talking about actually getting into that, the whole ratio trading in crypto, but now we're ratio trading in everyday life between US dollar, gold, and silver, and then whatever it is that we're buying.
Some good arbitrage.
It seems that there's a lot of effects that are going to be hard to see until it's actually in motion. But I think what you're talking about, which is you can accept this. You don't have to, but you can, just like other places accept like Amex versus Visa or whatever. But there's so many other effects that come with it. So for the store value standpoint, I can understand that. And I can see that being attractive to people, because theoretically, the one thing that this would do is make it easier to go from stores of value such as gold and silver into actual usable currency. So right now, for anybody at home, if they do have gold and silver or other precious metals as a hedge against inflation, it's like, cool, that's awesome. How liquid is that? The answer is not very liquid.
Yeah.
So one of the benefits I can see with this proposal is that it actually gives a little more functionality to gold and silver, which is that you've created a larger market, or rather a more permanent market floor for people that are willing to buy and sell gold and silver from you in exchange for some other form that you can actually transact with.
I agree. I think that something to keep in mind though, like you talk about it helps the mom and pop folks out at home who have their stores of gold and silver. The biggest problem is, I will refer to your friend Sami, his famous saying that community is the asset, not the code, right? So like it requires so much community adoption to get it going that it's like you're not going to just make, the Seattle Sonics into the #1 basketball team into the United States because you say, "Hey everybody, you should like the Seattle Sonics," right? Or you should use the Seattle Sonics, or you should legislate the Seattle Sonics into your state's monetary system. Like the biggest problem I see with this is it requires a ton of people to sign up to it that aren't interested, that aren't that don't see that $1 million, that $100 million offer like you're talking about with Hormozy. Like there's just so many people that probably have zero fucks to give about this. Like we're in the ship pretty deep, right? And like I have tepid interest in this at best, and it's like I'm probably the target market, or like I'm at least close to the target market, and I'm barely down. It's like, okay, if someone else does all the work for me, I might, I might dip my toes in, but it's just it's I just see this as needing um so much community effort that it would be crazy. I think that the best way to start implementing this stuff is to just fucking do it on like the city scale, kind of like what the Bitcoiners are doing in El Salvador, in Denmark, in not Turks and Caicos, what's that, what there's a Suriname, right? There's a whole bunch of little circular economies where they just use Bitcoin. Like they just start using it, and they onboard the local businesses, and they're like, "Hey, this is how you accept Bitcoin." Blah 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 blah. And then like people just start using it, and it starts from like the grassroots level and works up. I think that would be way more effective for onboarding people into the gold and silver backed currencies than like trying to do it from the top down, saying like, "Hey, states legislated into existence." Like, no, just fucking start doing it. You know, start convincing people, and then have their friends, talk to other people. Like work from the ground up, don't work from the top down. You can't legislate things into being interesting. Perhaps that's what he's trying to do with the book. Maybe I'm being a little bit of what's a wet blanket here, but
No, I think you are identifying a very real issue whenever you're trying to impose a large scale solution like this. And I think that one of the reasons that the author specifically uses the state government level, outside of just the actual being able to cite it in the Constitution to give it legitimacy in that way, but it's that it's so much easier to just have something come from the state in which you live, kind of just like by public decree. Obviously, I think everybody on the panel here is very much a more libertarian bent, so we kind of like don't care what the government says to us. But I believe that the average person who is not as informed, or as in the target market, like Will, as you said, I think it's a lot easier for those people to accept and just kind of be like, oh, other people are doing this? Yeah, I'll get on it. Oh, the government is doing this thing now? Sure. Yeah, whatever they say. It's like, I can understand how going the government gives you a route. It gives you an advantage in that route, as opposed to having to grow that grassroots community all entirely organic, like you said, because that is no small feat. That is something that takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of time too.
it's a very difficult problem, and like this solution, I don't know, perhaps Homie doesn't have a whole lot of money, but he did write a book, and we did read it for book club. So, there's however many people are watching this, they're now infected with this idea. So perhaps it will gain some traction.
There you go.
So
He at least has the proceeds from the $10 that I spent on Audible.
yes, yep, me too. I think I spent a credit. I don't know if I spent actual real life money, but it's just as good. The Audible credits could be the next debit card. And
There
like,
you go.
why stop at gold and silver? Why not use lumber? Why not use thumbtacks? Why not use like glasses of water as our reserve currency thing? Like we we just say like, hey, here's a pile of yellow legal pad papers. They're each worth $1, right? I have 40,000 of them, so I can now transact 40,000 worth of legal pad bucks instead
They
of gold
are
bucks.
worth the paper that they're made of.
Exactly. It's like you could do this with, I mean, theoretically anything, right? Like this
I
is
think
what
you
all
have a
the
very valid point here, but I think
yeah
the one limiting thing that the author is probably going to hang his hat on is the idea that in the Constitution, in that section, it specifically calls out gold and silver, just
yeah.
those two. That's it.
It is written down on a piece of paper that some people signed 230 years ago. So there is that. We do have that campfire story going for us. It is
There's
written
also
down on
a good social belief in the Constitution itself. If you live in the United States, I'd argue there's some social value there as well.
yeah, I mean, it does exist. Like I'm not I am kind of downplaying it because it's like,
I
how
hear
many
you.
people like know anything about the Constitution, right? How powerful is it of a campfire story compared to like if I'm sure that there's more people that know what's going on with the Kardashians that know like a single article of an article in the Constitution or whatever the things are called. See, I don't even know if they're called articles or whatever, right? It's like I'm pretty sure they're articles.
There are articles. Yes, you are correct.
Okay.
You and I are. I think we are closer to the Constitution camp than the Kardashian camp, my man.
That's fair. Yeah, I agree with that. But like, but the point is like it's written. This very specific permission slip is written down on a piece of paper that is meaningless to many people. It has some legal precedence, right? But like in terms of the people on the ground doing the stuff, thinking about things, there's like I'm yes, yes, Dad, you're absolutely right. The Constitution is good. I agree. The Constitution is good, but that doesn't mean that people value it. The Bible is good, but that doesn't mean that everyone in the world values it. The Quran is good, but not everyone in the world values it. Eating steaks instead of Chex Mix is good, but not everyone decides the same thing. Like people decide how much value they put into each and everything that exists. And like there's many things in the world that are good that people don't give a fuck about. And that's the honest truth of it. And so what that requires that steak is very good as well, Dad. Yes, you're absolutely right. There's there's many things in the world that are good, but most people don't give a fuck about things that they like that doesn't affect them, that they don't care about, that they're not incentivized to give a fuck about. And so that's where like, salesmanship and marketing and emotional manipulation come into play, where you present ideas in such a manner that people want to buy into it. This book, as it was written, it was very information based, but it didn't spur me to make a decision. You know what I mean? So it's not like super effective marketing. Like I feel more moved to go buy a Coca-Cola when I see Coke on a billboard. It's like, ah, yes, I could go for some like sugary drugs or whatever the hell right now. Like it's the problem that this concept is going to run into is it's not marketed well, at least as of now. And marketing generally costs lots of money. And this I think that that's probably the oh my god, Fast and Duel. I think that this this book makes me feel like a real woman. God damn it, bro.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, that makes me think of Shania Twain. Anyways, the marketing is a problem. The marketing, the incentives, it's not like it's not making me feel fear, or like it's not making me feel FUD or FOMO. I don't feel anything. It's like, oh, this is cool information. All right, cool beans. Next thing, I'm gonna go check out what's going on with the latest YouTube reel of Avatar: The Last Airbender, or go see what's going on with the latest House of Dragons episode or something. Like I'm gonna find something that gives me a bigger dopamine hit than this book. And so I think that like if the author really wants this to happen, he needs to start doing some better marketing, driving up some FOMO, getting more people informed, which I suppose he's tricked us into doing. So, you know, good on you, Mr. Kevin Freeman. You got the Degen Roundtable to give it some analysis. But I do think that it's a good idea. It's great and it's awesome. It needs quite a bit of work. It needs quite a bit of um emotional pull. It needs quite a bit of like action inspiring whatever you'd want to call it, you know.
I mean, I'd argue he tried to put 5 chapters worth of that in the beginning of the book before he gets into his proposal in chapter 6, but clearly this was not effective for you.
He did. It was I guess it fell on deaf ears. And I listened to this damn book twice, right? So I invested 2 times the amount of energy that would be normally expected. So I don't know. This is just my personal thoughts. Am I saying anything wrong here? Am I too cynical?
No, I don't think you're too cynical. I think the only thing I disagree with you on is just the amount or the severity of the things that you're talking about. So one of the things that you mentioned is, oh gosh, I've already lost my train of thought. Fuck.
I did mention many things.
Well, you also said my favorite word, which was incentives, and I immediately started going on a tangent with that. So
people do what they're incentivized to do. So if you can find a way to build the incentives of what you want into what they see, and you can lead them, you know, Hansel and Gretel breadcrumb style to do exactly the thing that you do, then you could Machiavellianism people into following your plans, following your goals. And it, like, we find that a lot in our culture, you know. We are led to do many of the things people want. Continue with the point though.
We'll put a pin in the point for now, real quick though. We are coming up to about a little over the 1 hour point, so let's go ahead and hit some chat shoutouts real quick if you don't mind.
Yes, let's do it. It's time for some motherfucking chat shoutouts, ladies and germs. Fucking send it, Mr. or Mrs. Producer and Mr. Zenith.
For sure. So first up, we got Your Health Unplugged, aka I believe Dr. Chen. Am I right?
Yes, Dr. Alan Chen. Welcome, amigo. Good to see you.
Rock the like. We really appreciate you for that one. And we also do have our excellent Fast of Duel. This book makes me feel like a woman. But
man, I feel like a woman.
From Mr. Will Stevenson Sr., he says, like Nate mentioned, I would worry about the arbitrage part as well. Where do you set the price for gold to keep stability?
You don't actually set the price for gold. The price is found by the market. So whatever the market decides is what it is. Whenever like governments or entities try and set a price for something, that's when you run into trouble. Like when the government said, all right, everybody, loaves of bread are now $10. It's just as bad as when the government says, all right, everybody, loaves of bread are now $1. You know, you get into some trouble there. So I understand your point though, Father. Arbitrage, yeah. Arbitrage,
I think market price is, well, it's not just arbitrage from the dollar to gold standpoint, but this is actually an issue that we talked about for the last book, which is bimetallism, which is that trying to combine gold and silver, I think is going to be an issue as well, because then you start getting into that weird ratio trading thing where it's like, am I paying you in gold or am I paying you in silver? Am I paying you in some combination? And how is this determined? Is one worth more than the other?
Man, why not both? We can do...
So
hit us, Nate.
Yeah, the way that the ratios work is that you always have like if you technically look at the dollar is extremely volatile. Why? Because next week maybe bread is more or less than it was the week before. Here's the thing that you got to remember though, people agree that they're going to use the dollar to pay for whatever it is. And that's the ratio that people ultimately need to think about. So if we all agreed to use Bitcoin, it doesn't matter if Bitcoin is $100,000 or $60,000. It's this many Bitcoins or Satoshis, I should say, for this piece of bread, right? And that's the ratio people start looking at, right? And so technically when people start looking at, oh, Bitcoin is volatile, they're looking at the dollar price, that dollar ratio, okay? Well, maybe the dollar itself is what's actually volatile. Maybe it's not these other things like gold. Maybe gold is the stable one because everybody wants gold. We would just have to agree together how much gold we would want for said thing. That's all.
You're absolutely right, Nate. One of the things that I think about is every time I go down to El Salvador, the price of you go to melon juice, right, at the Bitcoin convention center in Berlin. It's 1,200 sats, you know, 1,200 Satoshis for a bottle of a fucking pretty sizable bottle of watermelon juice. It's not watermelon. It's a different type of melon. Doesn't matter.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's 1,200 sats. So you go down there, it's 1,200 sats for a bottle of juice. It's like I want to say 1,000 sats for a coffee. You know, everything is priced in Satoshi, which is like, you know, 10 Satoshi is 1 penny. right? When Bitcoin's $100,000, if what give or take with the fluctuation, right? But like all the products at the Bitcoin Convention Center are priced in Satoshi. I don't think you can pay in cash over there. Maybe you can, but I don't know. They take Bitcoin, and it's super easy to get Bitcoin over there. Like they have these vending machines on the wall that like you literally put money into, and then it says, tell me your wallet that I'll send it to, and it's like, oh wow, super simple, fucking bazing bazam bazoom, done. But like over in Berlin, you can get cookies and melon juice for Satoshis, and it's like the price of the melon juice does not change with the price of Bitcoin or the price of the market. It's just like that's just what the price is, you know. And there's some really cool Bitcoiners over there that like myself and Dr. Chen we're renting rooms from, right? And it was all charged in Satoshi. It was all charged in Bitcoin. So like the price of the rooms will go up and down with the market. But if you're not using dollars, then you don't care. If you're just using Bitcoin, then it's like, yeah, I'm just using Bitcoin because that's what we use in Berlin, right? That is the oh shoot, the
currency
denomination of the
currency?
transaction. It's just in Bitcoin. So you're absolutely right, Nate. Like when people stop thinking in dollars, then the price of the dollar like doesn't really matter, you know?
It doesn't
It's like,
exist.
yep, the unit of account, yes.
So
Absolutely.
what you could be saying then is that if you move the dollar out of sight, then it would be out of mind.
Exactly. And the United States probably wouldn't be very happy, but ooh, Mr. Hexagon Lost in Asia has a really good
I
point. though.
love Mexican Lost in Asia, bro.
Poor.
We call them.
We love you, man.
Shout out to all the rest of the Moongaggers that understand the reference. It's a killer song.
We call them poor. I don't know that song. That's
It's
a good one.
they did a house remix of an interview with Michael Saylor
Oh,
where
no.
he says people who use fiat as a store of value, we call them poor. And then that's the hit. He just goes, we call them poor.
Yep.
That's good.
Oh man, so many good Michael Saylor memes. I fucking love that dude.
True. Alrighty, so I will say, I think if there is as much craziness as the creature from Jekyll Island was, I think one of the big lessons I had from that one was the bimetallism idea, and I think that again one of the cons that I'll come up with for this proposal is the idea of the store of gold and silver. Bimetallism, aka using multiple precious metals, has been shown to fail more often than not. So that's one of the things that I'm going to pin up as my critique of this one. But overall, I got to say, I think the proposal makes sense. I think one of the reasons why it does make sense is that who's one of the largest spenders in the entire world? Fun fact, it's the U.S. government. And even inside of that, it's the state governments as well, because they also help compose the United States. So theoretically, if the states, even if just the states, use this kind of proposal to start using gold and silver more often to settle debts between each other, that creates some sort of a market which allows for other people to get in. I do believe in the idea of the adopters curve, which is you have the bell curve of like who gets in on a trend. You have like the true visionaries and pioneers out at like 2-3 standard deviations. The 1 to 2 standard deviations is early adopters, and then the 0 to first standard deviation is going to be your first half of the market, and then you have your second half of the market, and then you get to the other end of the bell curve, and you have the laggards, and then just the tinfoil hat folks that refuse to use the new gold because it doesn't taste the same. It's like, yeah, that kind of stuff makes sense. So the benefits of the proposal are that I see there is as much as it pains me to say this, there is a legitimacy that comes from the government backing something. There is something you can point to from the legal standpoint for saying, yes, this is actually like feasible and allowable in our current structure. And then outside of that, it's the idea that if you have this, it should also encourage adoption. So it's not that everyone has to use it. You can use it, and it should benefit people that choose to use it at the same time. Additionally, if you use this, what then that does is it means there are technically, like to Nate's point earlier, there are technically less dollars competing for the same amount of goods. Instead, we have kind of a representation of the dollars in the form of the amount of gold or silver being used for the currencies. So if the idea behind inflation is that inflation is caused by more dollars chasing the same amount of goods, then this should, it's not going to eliminate it for sure, but it should maybe curtail it a bit. But then the question there is the degree of the curtailing. And again, it's all theoretical until the actual numbers come out and we see the effects. So, I mean, not a bad pitch, but I think Will absolutely does have a good point where he says we might need some better salesmanship or some incentivizing.
Yes.
Any thoughts?
I agree.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you on that. That was very well said.
I think there's just so many different. The issue is, there's so many different ways we can take the conversation, talking about like the second and third order effects, about like the what if, the game theory. If we start doing this and someone does that, then bricks will do this, and then it's like, I don't know. It's
don't mid-curve it.
Well, believe me, I know. It's we gotta stay out of the middle of the IQ curve. We gotta go to one of the ends and just hope we're on the right side. But I don't know. Overall, what do you guys? If you could modify the proposal in any way, what would you change?
Yeah, damn. I don't know, man. I'd probably, because you're right about like multi-metals. That does tend to be an issue. You know, if you were to add like jewelry to precious stones, like,
would it be better to have more or better to have one?
So here's the way that I view this, right? If you had just gold, okay, that's your standard, and there can only ever be so much gold on the planet because gold is formed in supernovas, and it's brought here by comets and asteroids and crap like that, the forming of the actual planet itself. So you can only have so much gold. That makes sense. The idea of you can always mine. I wonder where that came from. More gold, right? Like, okay, sure. So you could call gold technically inflationary, but it technically no, because there is only so much. Now, the issue of silver, right? Well, maybe silver. I mean, you can technically make silver, right? And then, like, let's go ahead and look at diamonds. Okay, you could technically make more diamonds. So then you start yelling about purity levels. You could use something like tungsten. We can't make more tungsten. We can't make more platinum, right? We could use those types. But overall though, here's the way I kind of view it. Gold, that's the standard. However much there is, that's how many bills can go out. Now, if we wanted to say inflate and turn on a money printer, so to say, to make more bills, instead of making them out of nothing, instead what you can do is you can add in a new type of metal, right? Now you could segregate those metals and say only these new types of dollars are going to come out because these ones are specifically like a silver dollar or a gold dollar and things like that, right? Maybe you could do something like that. That right there could work. And if one of these, because you've compartmentalized them, if one of these starts printing off into the heavens, right? Just because, they're maybe you got the diamond dollar, right? And they're making more diamonds now and keep adding more dollars. It's like, okay, well, this is basically useless now. I'm going to go back to only the gold dollars. I only want the gold dollars now, right? Because it holds its value. I think that would be a very good, safe, oh my God. Wow. I'm forgetting the word. Safe.
Store of value?
No. Okay, we have three branches of government. For what reason? To check each other, right?
Checks and balances.
Balances, yeah. So that the compartmentalizing of these different types of bills for the different type of metal would ultimately be a safeguard. That's what I was going for. Jesus, how do I? Oh man, brain fart, guys, brain fart. But safeguards. It would be a safeguard against some diamonds are just being printed like crazy. They keep making more diamonds to make more bills. All right, let's get rid of that one, or let it die, right? Let it inflate to the heavens, let it die. Let's go back to the gold dollar, right? I think that could work a hell of a lot better.
So you're saying market competition so the more things that are possible to be used in these transactions should help create more stability through competition. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yep. The market will decide ultimately, but you always need a baseline. And the baseline, well, you need your freaking floor. And the floor, the baseline for humans have always been gold. Go back tens of thousands of years. And what are people like holding? What is it that people want? Gold. They always do, even if they don't even know why they want it. It's just a pretty rock, right? So yeah, it's one of those things. I think if you had the baseline of thousands and thousands of years of proven worth, proven value, hold it there, and then start adding in more bills as you want to with different types of metals. Let the market decide. There's going to be some arbitraging between, hey, the gold dollar isn't worth as much as this diamond dollar over here. But then it starts inflating to high heavens, and then people are like, shit, I'm going to go back to the gold dollar, right?
Fair. Yeah, I think that is one of the benefits of having the market system, which is that theoretically, if you have a sizable market that's large enough to account for all of it, then the competition should help even things out. Granted, it might require a little bit of moves, or if you're just holding multiple of the same thing, diversification should help reduce the downside. Excellent points, Nate. Alrighty, Will, I understand you have some quotes for us.
Yes, I would like to go through a couple of the quotes in this book before we move to close here, because there were some cool things that he had mentioned that I want to talk about. And the first one is that money is supposed to be freedom, and money is often not that exact thing. Money is turned into a mechanism of slavery. So one of the things that I want you guys at home to think about is that money is supposed to be a tool by which you measure the value that you provide to the world, and that the world gives back to you, so that you can go and take your value and go and do other things that other people provide that are valuable to the world. So like money is the mechanism, currency is the mechanism by which you transfer value, and you use as a means of basically communicating to other people that, hey, I'm valuable, you're valuable, I did a thing, let me get some of the thing that you did, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the first thing that I wanted to cover. Are there any thoughts on? But money is often turned into slavery, right? So it's supposed to be freedom, and it's often turned into slavery. So that's the first thing that I wanted to open up. If any of you guys have any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, it's the whole point of freaking crypto in the first place, right? It's the freedom to transact. That's the whole point. I'm sorry, but unless you have me in a literal jail, even in a jail, actually, I could just take like freaking cigarettes or whatever, and there's my currency right there.
That prison money.
That prison money, right? You always have a freedom to transact. The question is, what is so widely accepted as the transaction medium? That's always the one where people get kind of messed up as far as like becoming a prisoner or economic prisoner. Sorry. It's because they keep thinking, I have to have dollars and able to live life. Well, yes, it's because you're in a very large system that has
dollars.
Yeah, that uses dollars, right?
Yeah.
And so because of this, people don't think outside the box and try and say, hey, what else can I do, right? Crypto, I think, has been the most in-your-face, obvious way to get outside of the system.
Yep.
To be able to transact around in different ways. And with like the cards and all that we were talking about earlier, this is that medium of exchange that we're able to go outside. And this is why I did the whole portal thing, right? It's like we're able to go outside the system, make technical dollar amounts with these coins that are created in this whole cryptocurrency industry, and then portal our way back into the system and be like, oh, I'm going to transfer these weird coins that I got that some random guy made on the internet, and I'm going to transfer them into US dollars or yen or whatever, right? And there we go. Now I can transact in that medium. The problem, obviously, that we run into is when the governments look at that and go like, hey, where are you portaling off to? What's this new space over here? And they don't like that you portal off to that unknown space, and then you come back in with buttloads of their currency, and you're like, wait, what are you doing over here? That's the issue, and that's when they start like shutting you down. That's not freedom to transact. That's the reason why I'm seeing a lot of. I'm going to finish this one thing. I'll let you talk there, Zenith.
No, you're good. You're
good. That's why we're seeing a lot of these crypto geniuses. These guys, just huge brain people, trying to figure out how to make their own system to be a competitor with the current system. And maybe it's not even competitor. Maybe just work with. So that way, at least on like the smaller level, like if you go to the farmer's market, maybe you could use crypto instead. Something like that, right?
Definitely. I mean, the two thoughts that I had when you were talking there is, yeah, like the Ray Dalio Changing World Order book. The world reserve currency is one of the largest power games that is out there, and people fight and die over it. There's no denying it. And then the other thought was, yeah, everything we're talking about here, I don't know if there's one perfect supply to a better money, because when it comes to money, you got to have store value, divisibility, medium exchange, and then also scarcity. And all of these have their own issues, including crypto. They're, well, not any individual crypto per se, unless the fundamentals are just really jacked, which a lot of them are. But I think crypto is suffering from the scarcity aspect, which is what we're seeing right now in this cycle. One of the very popular talking points that I'm trying to sort out is people are saying that this cycle might not, one of the main reasons for a diminishing amount of X's this cycle is that the amount of cryptocurrencies has absolutely exploded. The ability to launch a coin has never been easier than it is today, which means that the scarcity is kind of the issue when it comes to cryptocurrencies. If you centralize around a few of them that have good fundamentals, aka the supply is not just like stupid inflationary, or there's real issues with some of the other stuff like being hacked, or the amount of like people holding X percentages and then doing some real jacked stuff with it, that kind of stuff. But again, like whether it's cigarettes in prison or meme coins on a chain, you got to find the best one and then just kind of roll with it.
Yeah,
Totally agree. One last thing I want to say to your point, Zenith, people fight and die over like dollars and stuff.
They're not going to let it go easily. They're not going to let it go easily. I can't tell you how sad it makes me. Like now that we're balls deep in this stuff, when it's like, oh, somebody got murdered and stole $100,000, right? My first thought is, oh my God, they literally print this stuff. It's not that important.
Yeah.
All right, Will, hit us with another one.
That's I would have tossed it to Mrs. Producer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Mrs. McGettit, do you have any thoughts on this this quote that money is supposed to be freedom, but money often turns into slavery? Any thoughts before we go into the next one? The next one's about war machines.
Oh, war machines. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I've said it on this channel before. I believe that one thing that really bothers me about a lot of people is they will take on a job, and then they will sit there and be afraid of getting fired from that job, and then do anything that their boss wants them to do, whether that be like a terrible boss, whether that be a good boss, but in most cases, a terrible boss. And then they just do whatever they have to do, sacrifice whatever they have to sacrifice to stay in that job because they need the money. So I completely agree with this statement. Like,
yeah,
it absolutely has, especially in today's world, has turned more into like a slavery aspect than a freedom aspect. You only really get to be free if you have so much money that it's excessive. And even then,
fuck you money, right?
Yeah, basically. And even then, you're gonna get like heavy criticism for that. And some people can't handle that type of thing. So it's rough. I definitely agree with the quote. And I just want to say to anybody out there who may be in that situation where you're working for a horrible boss, or you're dealing with a whole bunch of garbage because you want money and you need money to survive, please remember that the job needs you. It is, and not the other way around. There are hundreds and hundreds of jobs out there. I mean, unless you're doing something where you're making six figures, you're probably better off just finding a new job if you're miserable in yours.
Yes.
Just, that's my opinion. Take it or leave it. Hopefully that'll help somebody.
Yeah, so it's a matter of framing, right? If money is supposed to be freedom and money actually is slavery, the real problem is the way that the people look at the tool. The tool is the tool, right? If I have a screwdriver and I throw it at my foot and it stabs me, right, then I'm using the tool incorrectly. If I'm taking my hand and putting it on the desk and like stabbing myself in place, then I'm now a slave because of the screwdriver, But if I'm taking the screwdriver and I'm using it to fix a machine in order to help my friend so that way he can, do X, Y, and Z, then I'm using the tool as a sovereign individual, as opposed to using it incorrectly and becoming a slave to it. So this is the most important thing for people to come to the realization of. It's like you need to frame the thing inside of your own head. Like Cass was just saying, the job needs you. You do not need the job. You're able to solve more problems than just this one place of employment, right? Like I'm a tower climber. I'm a marine. I'm a philosopher, a crypto degenerate, right? Like I can do a whole bunch of things. Zenith, same thing. He's a Coast Guardsman engineer. He is a not program director. Fuck. What is your
Project
job?
manager,
Project manager, right? He's a
aka
project
professional
manager.
liar.
Yes, he's a project manager, but he's also like a budding legal analyst, right? Nate, he's not just he's not just a guy who will zap the bugs and mice away from your house with like chemicals and things. He's not just a pest control specimen. He's also a guy that knows how to do money printing, and he knows how to go to communities and go and find value, right? Like Mrs. Producer over here, she doesn't like just do homemaking. She also knows how to run Pokemon communities. She knows how to do producing. Like everybody is capable of solving a boatload of problems. And so like don't get caught up in one of the simple little jobs that you have. Don't get caught up in one of the little money-making systems that you're involved in. Frame the things inside of your own mind that give you the most power to accomplish like the most of your goals. So that's what like money is supposed to be freedom because it's a tool. Money is often slavery because people misuse the tool. So the thing that I would urge you guys at home to do is just to to use the tools in such a way that it helps you accomplish your goals. And with that, we're going to move on into the next quote, which is that great war machines still require fuel. One of the things that he talks about in the book is he talks about the I'm pretty sure it's the book. He talks about one of the German panzer divisions invading up into Russia, and what the Russians did is they burned all the fuel depots so that like the Germans couldn't advance anymore because they had shitty logistics and they weren't able to put literal like diesel inside of their tanks. And so once the tanks run out of diesel, the tanks can't do anything. If you can't turn the fucking car on, you can't drive to work. You know, same thing with everything in life. Everything in life, think of it as a war machine. Think of it as some sort of system that requires some sort of input or some sort of continuing consumption of energy of some sort of resource in order to function, right? Like this Degen Roundtable podcast doesn't work without the four of us coming together and putting our time, putting our effort into the StreamYard thing, clicking a whole bunch of buttons, turning on our cameras, like using these headphones and these microphones and cameras and everything to talk to you guys. It requires a consistent amount of energy being put into it, right? So when you guys are out there doing things in the real world, like great war machines or systems that you build, Minecraft redstone contraptions that you want to set up and roam around all over the place, like everything in the world that you use is some sort of system that requires some sort of input energy, and it has some sort of outcome, right? It might have a low energy input and a high outcome, in which case it is a high leverage system, or it might have a high energy input and a low outcome, in which case it's a low leverage system, right? So start thinking about what things in life you use, or the thing that I would encourage you guys to do is start thinking about what are the stuff that you do in life that has a low input with a high output. Do more of those. And what are the things in life that have a high input and a low output, right? And you're the one that determines the value of like whether an input is low or an output is high, et cetera, et cetera. That's all up to you guys. I've come to realize that like there's a whole bunch of things in my life that I was doing that weren't getting me any yield. Like I used to listen to the news a lot, and then I realized that the news is just like it's just information about things that I can't control, and it would like make me angry, or it would make me sad, or it would make me happy, or it would do whatever, but like I couldn't do anything about it. So it essentially amounted to entertainment, because it's like things that will tell me stories that will sometimes make me feel good, sometimes make me feel bad. And so I stopped doing the low leverage things with the high input low output, and I started doing more of the low input high output. So start thinking of things in life as a great war machine, right? Start thinking of like, hey, if I'm going to send all these tanks to go and accomplish a mission, am I going to run out of fuel before the mission is done? Am I going to run out of money? Am I going to run out of time? Am I going to run out of attention? Am I going to run out of like physical resources? Am I going to run out of health? Like these are things to consider. So this is what this quote in the book got me thinking about, is like all great machines need some sort of fuel in order to survive. So I wanted to open up this point for you guys to chat about, if you have anything, or any sort of thoughts, like what are some of the machines that are in your life, and it doesn't have to be like a literal machine that takes fuel or anything, like your car. You know, if you don't put gas in the car, you can't drive to work, right? So you use the gas in the car to drive to work to do the job. That's a high efficiency machine, right? Because it costs you a couple bucks to fill your tank, and you can go, you know, 20, 30, 50, 70 miles to get to a place where you're now able to provide hundreds of dollars of value every single day in order to bring those hundreds of dollars home to like spend 5 of it to go and get some sandwich making materials and then build yourself a delicious meal, pay your heating bill, go buy some cool guns, buy some cool ass cryptos or whatever the hell, you know, like these are the machines that I think about in every single day. So like, do you guys ever think about what in my life is a high leverage machine? What's a low leverage machine? Is this something crosses your mind?
Yeah. So I've experienced this, right? So thinking about yourself as the machine, you know, you do need fuel. And obviously when you say fuel for a human being, the first thing you think of is food. Well, there's a little bit more to it than just that. I literally for a few months actually worked for 18 hours. I had 2 jobs and they equaled out to 18 hours. And that was 5 days a week. And then I worked an extra 12 on the 6th day on a Saturday. And I realized very quickly that without proper rest, right? Without proper eating, without proper leisure time, what you may call, you know, kind of like lazy time, right? Where you're not actually outputting anything.
Yeah.
That is actual proper fueling. And one of the things that I've learned is when I also try to do that same stupid shit, going to work, working like 12 to 14 hours, and then getting home and trying to work with crypto for another like 6 or 4 hours, right? It's like, okay, my brain is shutting down legitimately. So I've gotten to the point now where I have a bedtime where it's usually about anywhere from 2 to 3 hours before like I actually go to sleep. And when I shut everything down, I'll simply turn on like a stupid anime, right? An anime, I'll grab some food like dinner time, maybe some alcohol or something, and just, you know, switch off the brain, right? That right there, that is a good way to keep the fuel pumping into your system to be able to do it again and again and again, and to do it efficiently as well.
I like it. I like it. Zenith, you have a thought?
Yeah. It reminds me of one of the Alex Hormoziisms, which is the magic wand, theoretically, which is like, if you could solve any one of these issues immediately to have the greatest effect, which would it be? Which is that one. It's similar to the idea of just like, don't get distracted by doing so many different things. To have the high efficiency machine, you got to make sure that you have the correct machine. If you're diversifying in machines, you're going to end up with a lot of different machines that have variable rates of efficiency. So focusing on the best one is the most important. This is one of the reasons that some finance influencers out there talk about how the whole like side gig or side business thing can kind of be a trap a little bit, because theoretically, if it is not making you more money per hour than your day job, then your day job is still technically the best machine. So theoretically, you should just go put more time into that instead of something else that's less efficient, unless there's an outsized potential for returns later down the road. But even then, you're playing with risk and probabilities, and that's where the math starts to expand a lot. But yeah, that's what that was reminding me of, which is just make sure you got the best machine possible. And I thought it was funny that you mentioned the car as your high efficiency machine, because I think technically, thermodynamically, cars are about like 25 to 30% effectively. Yeah, well, it's
think about the amount of gas it takes to get you somewhere, you know?
Yeah, but think about the amount of heat that your engine also expels. That's a lot. That's where a lot of it, you lose a lot of efficiency there. You lose a lot of efficiency through friction and the transferring of different kinds of energy, whether it's pistons going up and down, turning that into rotational energy through various things. But that's okay. Neither here nor there.
Yeah, well, that's like, you know, pure efficiency. I'm thinking of like de facto efficiency and and things of that nature.
I'll put the numbers away.
No. I mean, you are technically right. You are technically right. But when I think about like, hey, I can fill up this coffee cup that says "fuck the SEC Hex.com." I can fill this up with gasoline, and I can travel. You know, like a mile and a half, right? On this like coffee cup's worth of, well, maybe not a mile and a half. I don't know actually how. So let's see, I got 12 miles a gallon. So yeah, I could probably go about like I could go a good bit with like this amount of gasoline. And I'm just thinking like how much energy it would take me to walk that far. How many like hamburgers would I need in order to walk the distance that like a little cup full of fuel can get me. So this is one of the things that I think about. I got one more quote for you guys, and then we can go ahead and move to close. And I just realized that I moved away from my quotes page, so
Oh,
pulling it up right now. But the final quote
While
is,
you're doing that, oh, never mind. Go ahead.
I was going to say that the final quote is that prior to the 1950s, the United States earned wealth by making stuff, and then after the 1950s, since then, the United States has made most of its money by providing monetary services. So this is the thing that I harp on time after time here on the Degen Roundtable podcast is like, what are you gonna do in Hexaco, right? Like, is everyone what's and it doesn't have to be Hexaco. It doesn't have to be like whatever. It's like after you make it big by gambling on this cryptocurrency stuff, what are you going to do with your wealth that is like actual physically like tangible and productive for the world, right? Like, are you going like spending the money is useful because that means that other people's useful things are being consumed and being used and stuff. But like, what is the stuff that if you get super duper rich, what are you going to do with that wealth in order to make the world a better place? Like vacationing and going fishing is fantastic. And buying properties in the middle of nowhere is great. And getting, some cows and some chickens and fish and vegetables and buying 10 wives or whatever it is that you're gonna do, like in order to create your little homestead in the middle of nowhere. It's all great and fine and dandy. But like what is the stuff that you're going to do with your wealth that will tangibly affect the world? Are you going to provide financial services? Are you going to provide counseling? Are you going to provide entertainment? Right? Like, what is the problem that you're going to solve? So I'm gonna leave it to you guys. I'm going off camera here for a moment, so go ahead and have you thought about the stuff, Zenith, Nate, Mrs. Magetta? Have you thought about what is the stuff that you will do with your mass? And also, folks in the audience as well, feel free to comment. Like, what is the stuff that you're gonna do if you make it rich? Like, I would like to teach people how to shoot. That's something that I think that I could do. I also like teaching in education and entertainment and going and hanging out and all that sort of stuff. Like, as far as tangible physical things that I can do, like, I'm good at teaching marksmanship. I don't have the means to do all of it right now, but I would love to have my own range set up somewhere and teach Hexicans how to shoot, how to become more deadly, hone their ability to get a small piece of lead from one place to another effectively. Like, that's something that I think that I would like. What are some things that you guys would do um with your riches, with your wealth? And I will go off camera with that.
well, I feel like you gave me a really nuts and bolts question there.
Yeah, super simple.
Well, it sounds simple until you actually have to go do it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, realistically, the answer is you got to be able to. I think it's run teams to effectively build things, whether it's like literal infrastructure, whether it's like, I don't know. Personally, I would love to. I know I don't have the technical expertise for it. I would love to maybe get there someday, but to actually run like an automotive shop, to actually like work on cars, or even just do straight up design and like build new ones, that'd be amazing.
Is the project manager telling me that he would manage projects?
I'm telling you, I would manage projects that actually deliver value to people instead of just sit here and just make spreadsheets. This is more of like a personal gripe with maybe some of the day job currently, which is that I got so much more value out of actually like building and accomplishing things with the small teams I worked with in the past, as opposed to some of the more current work I do, which is just to create evaluations for analyses on this. Realistically, a lot of the work that I do now is pretty much just fulfilling the checklist that is required by government regulation for safety mechanisms, as opposed to back in the day when I actually used to like do stuff and like build boats with a team. And it's like, we actually made a physical product. Was I the one doing the welding? Every once in a while I did. It was fun, but I understand that was not my job. So it's building the business that actually adds value to people's lives, whether it's plumbers, electricians, carpenters, building houses, fixing cars, providing banking services for people in a local community. Not like trying to be the next JP Morgan Chase, but just like have a local place where people can rely on you to, I don't know, like actually not just fall into the trap of fractional reserve banking, but become the network that we talked about earlier in the show, which is that if you want to transact in crypto or whatever your local denomination is, you got to build the network of people that are willing to buy, willing to spend it and receive payment in it, that kind of stuff. If that makes any sense.
I think it makes sense. What about you, Nate or Mrs. McGettit? I like your answer though, Zenith. That was well thought out.
Yeah. So the thing that I always go back to is if I didn't have to work my current job, right? And I just had time on my side, right? If I didn't have to work for money, how would I be useful to society in large? That's kind of the way that I take that question. And in truth, I don't know, I'm a bit of a thinker. That's just me naturally. I'm not exactly the smartest peanut in the world, though. So if nothing else, I do think that what I could do is I could be one of those people who is able to think of ideas and then go out and retrieve people who are able to make that so-called dream become reality. Now, I'm not exactly sure if there's a word for an individual like that.
You could
But
make it.
what's that?
You could
Yeah,
make
I'm,
that word, bro.
I'm a dreamer. There we go. I'm
There you
a
go.
dreamer who does stuff.
Yeah.
Aside from that, though, there are some things like there's some stuff that I have thought about that would be pretty good inventions, and so I would like to invent a couple of things. And then also I love music, and so I would love to do music as well, and that would be entertainment, I guess. You know.
I will say there's a great irony to Will. You asked the question of how are you actually going to be useful in Hexco, and we're falling into the trap of the classic socialist college bro of like, oh no, I'm going to write slam poetry in the socialist revolution. Yeah. It's like, you sure about that? Sure, they're not just going to hand you a pickaxe and say, I think you yearn for the mines there, guy.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's the reason why it's really difficult to really put a like this is exactly what I would do, right? Exactly how it would go down. Because we're not actually there. And so we have to envision ourselves being at that place. Yeah. And when we envision ourselves being at that place, this is kind of the answers you end up getting, right? You know, it's like the things that I enjoy doing, I would do. But I would specifically want to do them to either encourage or help or improve people's lives, right? Just be a positive force overall on other individuals' lives, which would be good. But it's like, again, we fall into the trap or the problem of, so how would we do that? Oh, well, you know, dreaming about this, dreaming about that, right? So, I mean, you're right, Zenith.
Well, to be fair, the question was also posed as you made it, therefore you have a lot of resources, indicating that you don't have to do things, but you're trying to figure out a way to actually effectuate the things that need to happen without like physically picking up the chop saw and going to cut the lumber yourself to build houses. So,
well, like maybe you like cutting the lumber yourself. You know, the point of the question is like, you've become more powerful. Now, what do you do with your power? That's what it ultimately
you build the efficient machine, Will. You build the efficient war machine that puts up houses, puts in the plumbing, and does the electrical, and then also creates the community where people want to be around. That's my answer for you there.
And I like that your answer was like, hey, the thing that I'm doing that I'm really good at, it fucking sucks. And so I'd build a better mousetrap. That's what your answer was, Zenith, is like, I know how to build the mousetrap. And the company that I work for that makes mousetraps is like, these guys fucking suck at mousetraps. I used to make great mousetraps back with the boys, you know? And so I want to make more good mousetraps. Like that's essentially what your answer was, right? Like if I'm not mistaken, you know, I teased you a little bit for it. But like,
no, rightfully so.
Yeah. But you know, it's like the thing that you're good at is a thing that you like to do. This is the thing that you're doing right now. It's you're, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seems to me like you think that the people that you work for that are paying you, they're not doing a good job of utilizing your resources, and so it's like talent is maybe going to waste or something.
I think they are utilizing my resources to accomplish something that I think was busy work created by the government because we've had too many accidents in the past.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's just issues of modernity is what it is, which is that we all live in the United States of America, which to your original premise for the question, which is that, excuse me, up until the 1950s, we made things in the country. And then after that, we transformed more into an information or kind of like brain capital kind of economy. And then we just outsourced all of the actual production stuff outside. So the current balance when it comes to the world is that theoretically, if it's actually in order, which I don't know if it actually is anymore, but the idea was that people within the United States were trading the labor of their intellect, aka actually doing like design work, coming up with like new inventions, actually being good at the project management stuff and understanding the complex systems. And then because you are doing that, you need someone else to actually do the legwork and the grunt work and actually get it done. It's not saying that like, it's not trying to create like a permanent caste system of like, I'm the intellectual and everyone else is the filthy miners. It's like, no. It's the idea that free trade creates competitive advantages. And then it's not that you have the outright total competitive advantage, but it's the idea that your competitive advantage used effectively means that you do one thing, someone else does something. The sum of you both specializing is greater than what each of you individuals could accomplish separately.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, one of you might be really good at production, the other is less good at production. But if you work together to make your systems more efficient, you can technically produce more than you could without each other. It's the expertise, the experience, the skill, the knowledge. It's all that kind of stuff. So the question is like, we are falling into the trap of the question, which is that we have specialized in learning how to do things. It's specialization in knowledge as opposed to having the ability to do things cheaper, better, faster, based on either skill, expertise, or honestly just regulation. Because I think that's a lot of it with what's going on right now. Yes, Moonpilled Rational Optics. I see you roasted me in the chat down there. This is your Dynamics manager. Yes, and I'm telling you that Will is asking the question of more of, it's kind of a twofold question, which is half of it is, cool, we're in the apocalypse. How do you survive now? And the other half is, cool, you have a lot of money. What are you going to do with your money? It's the blending of those two questions to figure out, are you going to be useful in Hexaco? Or are you just going to claim that your slam poetry is worth $150,000 a year and hope that someone pays you for it?
Overall, I would like to say maybe the answer we're kind of looking for here is almost something like an Elon Musk, right? So Elon Musk comes up with an idea. He goes and he gets the people to build it, right? And then of course, those people have, the knowledge of how to build the thing. And then they have teams of people who are actually building the thing. So it's almost like it's like a hierarchy starting from ideas to actually getting it built out. Overall, I think we're kind of roundabouting in the same sort of deal. It's like, hey, we want to create, we want to improve. And if you look at the way that humans tend to be just in general, that is technically what we have always been. I have an idea of how to improve society. Now let me go find the experts to be able to figure that out,
I want to toss it over to Mrs. McGettit. We've heard no thoughts from you. Do you have any sort of thoughts like if for whatever reason, and maybe not cryptocurrency related, but maybe like just Pokemon card related, like it turns out that all the gold or holographic Charizards are worth $1 billion trillion zillion dollars, and it's time to liquidate the holdings, and you have all this wealth and all this capital. Like what do you think? Do you ever think about like what would you do with the power to change the lives around you, to change the world, if all of a sudden this power came to you? Do you have any thoughts, Mrs. McGettit?
The first thing that comes to mind for me, for whatever weird reason, is to buy housing for people. I don't know why that came to mind first. Maybe it's just like an obvious one, like feed the homeless type of a thing.
I'd say it's a good one.
Fair enough.
I might disagree a little bit there, but only on like a nuanced perspective that like,
well, one thing
buying people things doesn't make them appreciate it.
No, that's true. One thing that also comes to mind is exactly that, I guess, technically, like what I have experienced in the past is that when you just like try to house people, they tend to just destroy said housing and not take care of it. So so that's why like it's the first thing that came to mind, but also at the same time, would I actually do that? I'm not sure, because I don't know that it would actually be helpful to people. People usually don't value something that's just given to them for free, and that's the harsh reality. So I guess maybe thinking a little more on it, I would try to find some way to create better education that actually teaches people about the real world instead of how to go to, a job and be a slave for a job.
I think that something that all the homeless people get right is they all very much appreciate their sovereignty. This is one thing that I've noticed amongst all of them is like they're all free. They don't like participating in other people's systems of like getting jobs, keeping houses, doing things the way that other people do them. They sit on the corner and they ask for money and people give them money. And they're like, "Oh, I can do what I want now. I'm going to go get a beer or I'm going to smoke a joint or I'm going to slam some heroin, you know, in the ravine down by Will's house, up in Washington because that's what the fucking homeless people do around here." And it's just like the homeless people like sovereignty and they don't like being put in boxes. They don't like being put in zoos. They don't like being given free things. They just disrespect all of those opportunities. So I would take the opposite approach of give them free things, and I would do the because I'm a bit more authoritarian and much less caring. Is I would take things away from the homeless. If I was in charge to disincentivize them from being around, and I would say, look, you know, if you want to go and take a shower and clean up your fucking act and find a way to, I don't know, uh, dig ditches or I don't know, flip road signs um or go like I don't know, do some manual labor somewhere. Like then, hey, here's some tools for you to fix yourself up and get back on to like being a productive member of society. But if you want to leech around on the folks that are around you, then we've got a place for you, and it's a nice cold concrete cell, and we'll give you some maybe like one hot and two colds a day, and then you get your little concrete pad or something to sleep on. Like I'm much more heartless when it comes to the homeless people than most folks.
The Will's proposal is to those who have no home, we will take more from you. And then the end result
My
is, you're just going to jail anyways.
my proposal is I will give people two options, right? I will say you can produce and you can give to society, and you can start working your way up, right? By like because the thing that I've noticed with most of the homeless people that I interact with is they're not interested in getting a job. They're not interested in uh doing a lot of the useful things. Some of them, like most of them, want freedom, right? Most of them want sovereignty, and the way that they get sovereignty is by shitting on the environment that's around them, not in the literal sense, but just like making it worse, putting up tents in bad places, doing like the drugs that mess with your mind in such a way that like communities no longer feel safe. um there's there is a path for people to change their routes, and there's actually I'll tell you guys a little story here. uh a long time ago I was working in Louisville, Kentucky, on a TV tower just outside the city. And it was nighttime. I'd gone to an AutoZone. I was changing the battery in my truck, and so I had the hood open. It was wintertime. I was in my full like work clothing. It was like some refrigerator wear with like some reflective gear on it. So it was obviously like I'm a blue collar worker and I'm doing things in the area. And a dude walked up to me, and this will forever haunt me, right? A dude walked up to me and he asked me like, "Hey man, is your company hiring?" And he didn't know what I do. He didn't know I climbed towers. He just saw like, oh, general tradesman, outside of an auto zone working on his car. And so he walks up to me and he's like, "Hey man, are you guys hiring? Is there something that I can do to work for you that would be useful that you guys could pay me for?" And at the time, Biden had just got elected. And so literally like we had 4 contracts to go and build TV towers. It was like it was like, probably about $30 million worth of work over the next 4 years. Every single one of those contracts got canceled. And so my company basically went from like having a shit ton of stuff to do to having nothing to do. And my boss had already let go of 2 people um at the time. And so this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man, is your company hiring? Is there stuff that I can do?" And I was like, "Oh no, dude, sorry. Like we just ran out of work and we're like here barely scraping by ourselves." And he was like, "Okay, no problem, dude. Cool beans. I'm gonna keep going on." And like I didn't think anything of it at the time because I'm busy sitting there trying to like solve my own problem of swapping out my battery. And homie keeps walking, and he goes off and does his thing. And I remember like all the times I had like driven past people on the side of the road, and like this dude didn't look homeless. He didn't look like raggedy or gross or whatever the hell, but he was out there looking for a job, looking for work, looking for a way to provide to society. And there was nothing in my power to do for him at the time that I thought. And so I was like, no, dude, sorry, like we don't got anything. Um, I can't offer anything to you as far as work goes. And he's like, okay, cool beans, no problem. Continues walking off, and I finish fixing my car, and I get the battery installed, and I turn the keys, start driving away. And like 20 minutes later, I start thinking to myself, like, man, this dude is like the epitome of what I want to see in homeless people. He's out there like trying to find a way to produce value for the world where he can't find it in his local community. And so like I turned my truck around, and to this day, this memory haunts me. Like I start like driving all around town trying to find this dude. And I'm on the phone with a with my friend. Shout out to you, Loden, if you're watching this. But I was on the phone with my friend telling her this story, and like I remember just feeling like man, like I gotta like find this dude and be like, yo bro, I can like drive you around, and we can like go to the local fast food places, and like and get you a whole bunch of fucking job applications or something. And like I could put you up in a hotel for like a couple days, right? Like I'm like, we don't have work, but I've got like a couple bucks I can spare to put you in a position where you can become like an attractive person to a prospective employer in the area, and we can go and find you something. And I was never able to find the dude. And like I had come to the realization, just 20 or 30 minutes too late to um like take someone who is out there trying to make the world a better place and give him an opportunity to do so. Just never able to find this guy. It all ended up in a fantastic story of me just like driving around looking, and never seeing him again. But like it sits with me to this day. I see these people sitting out at like overpasses or at like street signs that are like holding up signs that are like essentially emotional manipulation tactics, saying like, hey, if you give me free money, God will thank you. Or like, if you give me free money, then my family will survive. Or like, they're doing all these little salesmanship tactics to make people feel bad, to elicit money out of the transaction. But they're not out there like one of the things that my coworker does is when we drive up to homeless people, is he goes to all the fast food places in the area, and he gets all these little like come work here. He gets job applications, and he hands out job applications to all the homeless people and shit all over the place. Like when they're asking for money, and he hands them job applications and says, he's like, hey, if you want to go work over here, they're hiring. So like you very, very seldomly see people that want to change the world and make it better and do some stuff. And so if I'm sorry, Cass, I shouldn't have gone on this long tangent and rant about all this stuff, but this is the thing that I think about when I hear about people talking about giving free houses to the homeless, giving free things to people that aren't appreciative of what society like already does and already offers. And I'm probably being a bit hubristic in my interpretation of how these folks are, and definitely stereotyping a lot of them. But like that's the position that I hold when it comes to like, do we house the homeless? Do we like I have no problem with feeding the hungry. That's great. But like I want to see people that are interested in fixing the world, and they just don't have the tools to do it. And I can get them started. I can get the snowball rolling down the hill, but it's up to them to keep the momentum, right? Like I don't want to just give them a free igloo. I want to give them the flashpoint that they can take and they can manipulate into something big and something beautiful. So
fair enough. Hats off to you for trying to be the change in the world that you wish to see.
Yeah, something like that. I'm sorry
for
stealing.
You're good. You're good. Tell you what, though, Will, can you hold up the sign one last time?
Yes, I will go ahead. It's time for some chat motherfucking shout outs, ladies and germs. Let's hear what you guys have to say, because I've been talking far too long.
Alrighty, we got a few people that we want to shout out one last time before we get out of here for the evening. We got Dr. H, the cryptopractor, coming in. He's saying, hey, chap, good to see you. Good to see you too, Dr. H. Always a pleasure having you in here. And then we have one last, Mr. Will Stevenson. He says, help people achieve self-sovereignty and freedom. That is a much better answer than I think any of us gave.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we got Moonpill Rational, or two more. We got Moonpill Rational Optics saying, provide modern society with my absence. Lol. There you go.
That's a good one.
answer.
Oh God.
And then lastly, we got our good friend Hexkin Lost in Asia. He says, I'd retire a second time, try to be as healthy as possible, teach boys how to be men, how to manage your fitness, finances, and women with ease. I agree. I think the older I get, the coaching aspect seems more and more important, but definitely as well, yeah. Just trying to help build that network as well. Awesome. Alrighty, folks. We're going to go around the horn one last time. Give us what you thought about the book and then where the folks can find you. So let's start off with Mr. Nate McGettit.
Yeah, so I just got done dropping my video over on my channel, which is simply The Ascending Man. Go ahead, go look at that. It's all about, I actually accidentally made it a half an hour because I just wouldn't shut the fuck up. And yeah,
we have a tendency to do that around these parts.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I meant for it to be about 10, just 10 minutes at maximum, but yeah, no, it's 30 minutes. But yeah, I'm talking all about the two alt seasons waves that should be happening around this bull cycle, and then the reasons why I think it's going to happen, going through the charts and everything. A couple of really interesting things that I found too on the others chart, and then also talking about ETH, why it sucks, and the more than likely the reasons for it coming back and actually surprising us possibly. So, yep, like I said, just go ahead and hop over to my channel, The Ascending Man, and yeah, just go ahead, watch yourself a little bit there. In the comments, like, tell me if you agree with me or you don't, because I am very interested in other people's thoughts on what it is that my theory is. So, I mean, hope you guys enjoy it, really.
Fair enough. All right, Mrs. McGettit, what you got?
Not too much going on here for me. If you want to find me, you can go ahead and take a look in the Degen Roundtable Telegram. There is a QR code right directly below me that I cannot point to because I don't have a camera. But anyways, Will point to it for us. Go ahead and scan that. Get in there if you want to talk to me or anybody here. All of us can be found in that Telegram, and we are usually pretty responsive. So chances are, if you tag one of us, you'll get a reply. Other than that, like I mentioned earlier, I went out and got some cool Pokemon stuff tonight, so I'm probably going to open that on my Facebook here tonight once we get done. I'm not sure if I'll open all of it because I've kind of found a lot. But anyways, so if anybody's interested in that, over on Facebook, we started a new group, my friends and I. It is called Cardboard Society. Just go ahead, request to join that. We'll let you in. There's only one question on there right now. It's really chill and laid back. But if anybody's interested in Pokemon stuff, I'm pretty much the only one who's doing anything in there right now. Everybody else is like super busy. So I'm trying to get us started. We're only at like 30 members, but if you want to join, come watch, come hang out. I open my cards really slowly though. Like I've had somebody yell at me for that. So, just be aware that I'm doing this to like hang out with people. I'm not trying to just get to the good stuff and fling all my bulk all over, which people literally do. I have seen it. They'll throw it away. But so you're not going to get that. But, come hang out. Hopefully we're going to expand that and grow that. And that'll eventually turn into like this LLC that I've been hoping to make. So, I'd love it if people want to join. As for the book, I will admit I listened to this one like 3 weeks ago when we were originally going to do it, but it didn't end up happening that week. So I don't remember a whole ton of it. Listening to you guys tonight has brought back a lot. Definitely think it's worth giving a shot. It pairs really well with like Zenith was saying, the creature from Jekyll Island. I believe that's what it was called. I just keep thinking of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde every time I hear that thing. So I keep forgetting the title of it. Pairs really well with that. So, and it goes a lot into about crypto stuff. I guess it doesn't like crypto stuff that much, but anyways, take it with a grain of salt, listen to it, at least hear out the thoughts and ideas. Maybe you agree with them, maybe you don't. I don't really think I have a position for this one on the 10,000 hour thing. I can't really think of where that might fall, but probably earlier than the Jekyll one because it's much shorter and probably easier to digest. And then, you can kind of combine the two of them once you have done both. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. And Zenith, Will, whoever wants to take it over, go for it.
Will, what you got, good sir?
So, Mrs. Producer, before we go too far away from the thing that you were talking about with the Pokemon stuff, can you post the link for that in the Degen Roundtable Weeb chat, the anime chat that we got? I think that's a good place to post the link for your Facebook group where you're doing all of your Pokemon stuff. So, for the folks that don't know, hop on over into the Degen Roundtable Telegram. For those of you guys that are listening on audio, it's t.me/DRT join now. that is the URL again, t.me/DRT Delta Romeo Tango. Join now, all one word. So hop on in there, go to the Weeb topic, and that's where you will find Mrs. Mageddit link to join this Facebook group for all the Pokemon stuff she's talking about. As far as stuff going on in the near future, this is book club number 51, Pirate Money. The book club for number 52 that I'm going to be leading next week is going to be Miss Manner's Guide to Excruciatingly Correct Behavior by Judith Martin. So I will make sure to post that up in the Degen Roundtable book club thing. It's one of the books recommended by our good friend Arceus Cacico. So I will be I will make sure to post a link for that so you guys know what's going on as far as the book club for next week. That's the one that's going on, and that's what I've got as far as stuff going on in the near future. For the folks at home who don't know who I am, my name is Will Stevenson. You can find all of my socials at will.pls.fyi. The link that I will drop today is I will drop my Instagram, and that is instagram.com/will.stevenson.iii, as I am the third. And so that's what I've got going on for me. That's what's going on in the near future. And that's all that I've got. Zenith, why don't you go ahead and tell the folks where they can find you and what you've got going on in the near future, good sir.
Will do, folks. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ZenithDI. And then outside of that, we're going to be back for our usual show on Sunday, our flagship news show. We got a special guest coming up on Wednesday. We're trying to figure out what it is, but I think we're having a round panel discussion, actually. And then next Friday, obviously, we're back for the next book club. Outside of that, though, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And then also other project I run, Walk the Block, Navigating Digital Finance. The Twitter handle is Walk the Block NDF. Find it there. A more curated and hopefully closer to the point show, although we still fail like that sometimes, let's be real. But yeah, outside of that, I would say I like the book. It's definitely an interesting proposal. I always appreciate when people try to propose solutions rather than just complain. At the same time, though, I'm definitely going to put this higher up there on the 1 to 10,000 hours scale, because the book does a good job of doing some history of money and whatnot. But at the same time, I think it's more of an advanced topic, and it's not going to necessarily help you on your journey to mastery early on. So I'll put it maybe about like the 3,000, 4,000 hours. Alrighty, with that said, though, we are going to get out of here for tonight. So thank you to everyone out there for spending time with us tonight. We know that time is your most valuable asset, and we want to thank you when you spend it with us each and every time. So until we catch you guys on Sunday, I hope that everyone out there continues to degen responsibly.